Hello, 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 and welcome once again to NeurodiverCity Explores. It has been a while. As always, things are manic here as we're growing and getting bigger, so I don't get to stream as often as I'd like. So, today we're going to be talking about something which is really passionate to me, obviously, and we're going to talk about advocacy and the ins and outs of advocacy. Because I have noticed there has been an influx of parents and individuals that have been going to advocates, getting wrong advice, being charged ridiculous pricing, and things like that. So I just wanted to kind of do an episode all around advocacy, the advocate space, and obviously give a bit of advice around there. Uh, Normally, we have the lovely disclaimer around things being personal opinions and everything else. Today is the first live. I'm not going to have that disclaimer there. Purely for the fact most of what I say is going to be on a professional basis and backed up by my qualifications, because we are going to be talking about laws, safeguarding, stuff like that, and also around business in general. So let's kick that off. Today I have enabled comments on the right hand side, so as comments come in, you will see them. If you do have a question, feel free to ask. I'll do my best to answer as quickly as I can. So let's start off by talking about the advocacy space. And obviously, over the past 5 years or so, the advocacy space has kind of skyrocketed, with new advocates popping up every day, new advocacy organisations popping up every day, new companies popping up every day. And one thing we at Neurodiversity have noticed is the price tags which are going on to advocacy, the price which are going on to for advice, the price tags which are going on for pre-screening, the price tags which are going on basically everywhere. Oh, that's okay, Jess. You're still here. Hello. Talking on of advocates, here's a fabulous one. This is Jess from Send Family Instincts, one of the companies Neurodiversity well and truly endorse. And to be fair, we'd be pretty lost without Jess and Charlie. Uh, so, first of all, let's talk about transparency, because transparency is really important. I'm going to, first of all, talk about neurodiversity's transparency, so I can be transparent with you about that. We are a C.I.C, known fact. A C.I.C, little known fact, is almost as if a limited company and a charity had a baby. That makes a C.I.C. So actually, even though we're not for profit, the majority of our money actually comes from services we generate commercially. However, not everything we do has a price tag on it. We do plenty of advocacy sessions. We do plenty of check-in sessions. We give plenty of free advice. Actually, the main people we charge for our businesses are companies and companies and organisations or clubs that have a revenue stream coming. Because I most of the time, in good faith, wouldn't actually charge any single user unless it's something that actually costs us money for. And I think, especially in this space, there is so many people who are advocates, who are self-proclaimed advocates, run advocacy companies and everything else. So first of all, let's talk about some of the legalities, because in a position where you're reaching out for help, it is vital, vital, vital to get the right support from the right people and to safeguard yourself the way they should be safeguarding you also. So, first and foremost, if you are going to an individual or a company for advice, first and foremost, make sure they've got a safeguarding policy. Safeguarding policy is important. It covers you, it covers expectations. So make sure you're safe, gives you the route to go down if you don't have a pleasant experience. Also details things like the expectations of if your information is going to be shared with local authorities, the police, or whatever else, what criteria is going to fit into that. Second of all, GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, another important one. That is what governs what happens to your data, where your data goes, who has it, who can see it, and what you can do with your data. Now, by law, every single company or even self-employed person should be registered with the Information Commissioner's Office. Especially in the advocacy space, that is really important because disability, health, sexual orientation, gender identity is all special category information. There's certain rules on how it should be dealt with and what your rights are to that data. So another thing to look out for is privacy policies. Also have a quick check over at the Information Commissioner's Office. Make sure that the organisation or the person is registered so you at least have some peace of mind that your information is safe. If you are dealing with professional organisations, another one to look out for is Cyber Essentials, which is basically a government-backed scheme, which basically makes sure that companies' devices and everything else are secure to the best of their ability, and also make sure that any data they hold is considered safe and that relevant risks have been thought of. Because last thing you want is while you're vulnerable and talking to an advocate, last thing you want is obviously your information, your name, what's going on with you passed around, because that's not good. That's not nice. I've been on the receiving end of that. And we all have a legal obligation to make sure that we deal with everything legally. So actually, you do want to make sure that places are GDPR registered. You want to check their website for privacy policies. You want to search the register of VPAs with the Information Commissioner's Office to make sure that you at least have your peace of mind that your data is safe, and to make sure that you are limiting not only the risks for you, but also the risk for your loved ones if you're a parent, children, and everything else. Next thing as well, important one rather. Insurance. Companies offering any sort of advice in a professional capacity should be covered by professional indemnity insurance. Which means if they've gone to the extent of making sure that they have professional indemnity insurance, means they're pretty confident within their field, or they have relevant qualifications that entitles them to speak in this field. For example, for me, I'm speaking about what you should look up for. This is me being registered with the Chartered Institute of IT, with the Certificate in Information Security Management Principles, which is all around data and data security, level 5 in GDPR, as well as various other qualifications, including child protection, safeguarding children, and safeguarding vulnerable adults. So those are some of the things you want to look out for. The other thing to look out for as well is transparency on fees. Last thing you want to do is be in a vulnerable situation, look for someone to get some support, be really confident you can get support from these people. First things they do is say, well, actually, we're happy to support you, but it will cost you X amount of money, especially with the cost of living going up. Every penny counts. And the other risk you have as well, that you're paying for something and it may not actually get you the outcome you want, or it may not even actually be relevant for you. So you may want to reach out to these potential companies and ask for a 30-minute free consultation to see if they can actually help you. Also, make sure you look about. Trustpilot, Facebook reviews, Google reviews, everything. Always make sure you know who you are talking to and what other people's experiences have been. The next one is verification. That's important. Especially with neurodiversity's customers, we will handle everything. We will give them business advice, we will give them legal advice and everything else, but the caveat is always the same. Don't just take our word for it. Reach out to other subject matter experts. Hell, even do a quick Google, see if what's being said actually makes traction. Because although you can get loads of good advice, you can also get some really bad advice, and some bad advice that may leave you in a situation you don't want to be in and leave you to having to go to another advocate to get advice because of your experience with the last advocate. And that's going to cause you some more problems. And on a personal level, I totally get that. I have standing meetings with advocates for support for myself because there is nothing wrong with getting support when you need it. But you do need to be careful that the support you're getting is worth the time and the money, but also to make sure it's actually having a positive experience and a positive outcome on yourself. Because 9 out of 10 times you're reaching out for support because you're struggling with the people who are dependent on you. So always factor them into the equation. Check out their social media. Check for some of the posts I've been having, some of the posts I've been putting out, seeing if you can resonate with some of the messages. Because 9 out of 10 times, if you can't resonate with the messages, you're not going to resonate with the advice, you're not going to resonate with the support. And obviously, by the time you realise that, you could have spent money, you could have had a really bad day and come out of your advocacy session feeling a lot worse. And obviously, that's no good for anyone. It's not good for you, it's not good for your dependents, and generally, it's just a really crappy situation to be in. So, yeah, just to reiterate, check the legal entity. Are they a company or are they a sole trader or individual? Are they registered with the Information Commissioner's Office? Do they pay the GDPR registration fee? Do they have a privacy policy? Do they have any data protection related accreditations going for them? Do they have any cybersecurity qualifications or accreditations for the business? Do they have a visible safeguarding policy, or will they happily send you a safeguarding policy if you request it? And also, can you guarantee that over the period of time you need support, it is going to be financially viable for you? If you are on a limited income, if you are on a limited budget, if you have high outgoings, reach out to advocacy organisations, advocates, actually see if they have any hardship funds available that you could utilise. For example, seeing as we have the lovely Jess Kane here, Send Family Instincts. I have never, ever, ever known Send Family Instincts to turn away a family because they couldn't actually afford the membership. However, please, please, please only ask that question if you genuinely are in a situation where you may not be able to financially afford it. Because when there is a high amount of people doing that, companies are more likely to actually close the doors for helping those in financial hardship because people do abuse that. So please be mindful and do remember that your actions could have consequences on other people. And that is not fair on them, because even though you think you may have it bad at the minute, there may be people out there who are having it worse. So that's generally, in a nutshell, things you should be mindful of, things you should look into, and things that we should all just take a minute to do a bit of due diligence to find out. Again, if you do have any comments or questions, feel free to throw them into the chat, into the comments section. I'll see it on my screen. I'll happily respond to any questions you have around this topic. And while I give you 30 seconds or so, just in case there are any, or people typing stuff out, I'm just going to take a swig of my coffee. Okay. So the caveat I do have here is if advocates cost money, they cost money. They are real people. They need to live. They have bills to pay, mortgages to pay, and everything else. Companies exactly the same. And obviously knows a company or advocate you're going to. If they're a sole trader, then obviously they rely on their advocacy work to keep a roof over their head, to keep their children supported, to keep food on the table, and everything else. If they are a limited company or a organisation, they are for profit, so they are in the marketplace to make money and to make profit. But ultimately, the directors do need to eat, do need a roof above their head. 9 out of 10 times, limited companies will divert some of the funds they have into charities, organisations, and everything, and they will kind of have a philanthropic arm to them. Last but not least, community interest companies. Not many people know about community interest companies, so let's go. Let's go for community interest companies. As I said, it's like it's like a limited company, a for-profit company, and a charity had a baby. So technically, we are not for profit. We don't do what we do to make a profit. However, we do have running costs, we do have staffing costs, we have electric. We also provide a lot of time helping people. 9 out of 10 times we will rely on donations. I know from neurodiversity's perspective, if you do need a service we normally charge for and are in financial difficulty or stuff like that, then we will either provide you heavy discounts or we will turn around and say, do you know what, cover the costs we incur and then make a donation to us. And a donation can be anything, every little helps. The exemptions there is if you are a limited company and you are a for-profit business model, chances are we may not move on discounts to help. It's not because we don't want to. It's because ultimately what we do is going to make you money. So actually, we should benefit money from that, and then we pass that down into our philanthropic services. So we use that money for discounted consultancy sessions, assessments, and everything else. So there's transparency from our perspective. We do make money from what we do. It's not a fat lot, but we do reinvest as much as we can to run more projects, to put more services on the go, to improve our infrastructure, to get more people on board, to bring in outside consultants to give us fresh sets of eyes, so that we don't actually miss any opportunities to help the community any better. But that being said, we do also heavily rely on donations. Most of the time, as a CIC, CICs don't really have a good track record for getting grants because they're in the middle of, because we charge for some services, we do get turned down for grants and everything quite often. So it's actually the odd £5 from a person here, the odd 50 quid from a person there, that actually keeps the lights on and keeps us going so we can keep on doing the important work that we're doing. So while thinking about making financially responsible commitments for yourself, also think of the other party as well. Because even if a person's just sitting there with 3 hours, for 3 hours, that's still taking their time, that's still costing them money, they've still got to have the laptop switched on, they've got to pay the phone bill, stuff like that. So please be mindful. And on a final note, because we are coming up to the 25-minute mark, Google is your best friend. If you can't find reviews or anything else, Google. If you Google a place, you'll find out all about the company. You will find about the person. You will see some good stuff about them and some not so good stuff about them in some situations. But remember, do your due diligence to separate the fact from fiction. Because as with everything, there are going to be people you give advice to who don't actually interpret the advice as it was given, and that may have had a bad consequence for them, and their automatic reaction is to blame the advocate. So obviously look at the quantifiable data. How many positive experiences do you see? How many negative? If they're all negative experiences, then actually on the probability of it being a successful session is probably pretty low down there. If it's all positive, chances are that you will have a positive experience. And Obviously, when you are speaking to an advocate, don't be afraid to ask for credentials. Do you have any qualifications or accreditations relevant to this field? Do you go purely on lived experience? Do you have any experience with the court proceedings? Things like that. Don't be afraid to ask questions. 9 out of 10 times, if you're asking these questions and you are getting stonewalled, then perhaps you shouldn't continue the conversation and perhaps you should carry on your search for an advocate. Because first part of advocacy is making sure that when somebody comes to you, you can put their mind at ease. And what puts somebody's mind at ease the most? Knowing the person you're talking to actually knows what they are talking about, rather. And that is the main thing. Because ultimately, you could come to me and you could ask me, does it sound like my child is autistic? I can answer that based on the interpretations, but actually I'm only going off what you've told me. I'm only going off half of the story. At the same time, I may have some teaching qualifications, but I don't have those lovely degrees around medical model to actually diagnose. So obviously, if you are looking for a diagnosis or anything else, take a look online. There are RDOS assessments. There are ASPE assessments that don't tell you whether you're autistic, dyslexic, or anything else, but gives you a probability of neurodivergence. If you see the probability and you are pretty confident with that result, print off the results, take it to the GP with you when you ask for a referral. Because ultimately, the longer you wait to get that referral in, the longer it's going to be until you can actually get that referral. If you are an adult who believes they may be ADHD, run a quick online test, find out. What you can do if you're an adult and you need an assessment, whether it be an ADHD assessment or whether it be an ASD assessment or anything else, get your referral from the GP, ask them for the right to choose. You can then go to a company like Psychiatry UK, and the NHS contracts will actually pay for your assessment, so you can have a private assessment done through the public sector. Just make sure when you do go in for that referral, you have enough information there for the doctor to say, okay, do you know what, I think you're onto something here, I'm going to refer you. Because 9 out of 10 times, if you can't put that quantifiable evidence, do you know what, I've noticed this and this and this, I've done an RDOS assessment online, here's the results, chances are the doctor may just say, well, let's discuss this at a later date. So right to choose, very important. Through right to choose, you can have an ADHD assessment in literally about 12 weeks. I think is practically the same for adult ASD assessments as well. Only thing is, if you're looking for an assessment and you are under 18, you don't get the right to choose. The options you have is you get a referral off the GP, get put onto a pathway, and then wait your turn, or you have to stump up the money to go private. So again, If you believe as a parent or of a loved one, there is a high probability that one of your loved one is going to be neurodivergent, do a quick online test. They're free. Will take you half an hour to an hour maximum. Once you've got those results, you can print them out, show them to the doctor, and be like, you know what, I think I need a referral. 9 out of 10 times, doctors will say, okay, do you know what, the fact you've gone to this length to do indicative assessments to get probabilities and everything else, I think there's some merit to this, so I'm going to go ahead and put referral in. So, yeah, that's everything all around advocacy and the services involved. So, thank you for joining me. It's been a It's been a pleasure speaking with you. I said thank you for joining me, and Alexa behind me spoke. Just can't get robotic assistance these days. But yes, thank you very much. Feel free to like, share, comment. I will keep a track of everything. And it has been my absolute pleasure spending time with you. If you have found this useful, rather, then feel free to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, and feel free to drop us an email, a message, or anything else through our website. We will be more than happy to help you. So thank you for joining me. I've been Kenza. You have been an absolutely lovely bunch of audience, and I will speak to you soon. Enjoy the rest of your